Have you noticed that all this research-based and evidence-based teaching practices that are coming out nowadays is some of the worst advice that's ever been given in the history of education? And while teachers are out running around trying to figure out what the latest and greatest practice is so that they can implement it into their classroom, the most successful teachers are locked in on some things that are far more important than those things. And that's exactly what makes them successful. The scripture says in Proverbs chapter 14, verse number 15, it says that the inexperienced will believe anything, but the sensible will guard and watch their ways. And in this video, I'm going to take and I want to share with you those 5 practices that the most successful teachers implement to create an atmosphere of learning in their classroom. And beginning with number 1, you have to have the right definition of success. Because if you don't define what is success, somebody else will define it for you and you will not be able to meet that standard. Success is almost always characterized as academic growth. And while that may seem pretty good on the surface, the reality of it is that's pretty subjective. And the reason why is twofold is because number 1, a lot of students come to school, they don't even make an effort. Some of them don't even turn in an assignment the entire year. So how in the world do you gauge academic success? And number 2, whenever it comes time for standardized testing, where you can get some data that would actually tell you a little bit of something, that data is skewed because a lot of students go in, they don't care. It doesn't affect them. They simply take the test, they put their head down, and they go to sleep. Since that's the case, you got to have a different definition of success. And I believe that the definition of success has to be the impact that you make in the life of a student. And you know what? That's something that you don't see right away because it takes some time for your impact to take root in their life and to begin to flourish. And oftentimes what happens is we run across a student that we had many, many years ago and we see them out in public or we see them in another grade level or something like that. And they come back to us and they tell us, hey, I just wanted you to know the type of impact that you had in my life. I want you to know that whenever I was really struggling, that you were there for me and that you made a difference. That is success. And that is a success that every single teacher can have in the classroom. And that's why the great teachers focus on that type of a metric and not a type of metric that is subjective based upon the work or lack of work of another person. Number 2, successful teachers prioritize what really matters. And in the classroom, even from day 1, oftentimes what is prioritized is the content. And there's a reason for that because the content is what students need to learn in order to be successful. But also the content, there's a lot of it and it takes a long time to get through. As a matter of fact, there's not even enough time probably to get through the content in most classes. And that's just a reality. And as much as that is the reality and as important as content is, I still don't believe that content is the most important thing or it's not the greatest priority. Successful teachers, I believe, place their priorities elsewhere while also teaching the content. The very first priority that successful teachers have is student connections and relationships. There is absolutely no replacement in the learning process than a connection with a student. And it is extraordinarily important that we take the time to get to know our students. They want to know if we're interested in them and to give them the time to get to know us. We all come from different backgrounds. We're extraordinarily diverse in our schools today. We don't see the world in the same way. We have implicit and explicit biases, as you all know. And so the number 1 priority has to be student connection. The second priority has to be classroom structure, the expectations, the procedures, and the routines. There has to be a priority given to them, teaching them at least for a couple to 3, even 4 weeks at a time in order for students to completely understand what it is that we want in the classroom. And the third priority has to be classroom culture. In other words, how are we going to treat each other while we spend our time in this room? And letting students know that it is not acceptable to be disrespectful to students or to be disrespectful to teachers or to be disrespectful to the learning environment. They have to know what is expected of them as it relates to the culture of the classroom. Now, you may notice, and you'll notice it all the way through this, that nothing I've said so far has anything to do with academics. And you're absolutely right. And it's not that academics aren't important. It's just that these things are far more important. And the reason why is because they create the atmosphere where learning can happen. And that's exactly what we want. We do want academic growth. We do want student growth. But before you can get it, you have to have an environment where it can at least take root. A third thing that successful teachers do is they create boundaries. And I want you to know that boundaries are not about being selfish, they're not about being lazy, they're not about trying to avoid being a team player. Boundaries are solely for the purpose of protecting you, and we put them in place before we have the feelings of being overwhelmed and frustrated. Sometimes we try to go back and put boundaries in, but when we do that, we find out that it's too late. And I want you to understand, it's not that I think that our administrators and colleagues intentionally break our boundaries or try to cross boundaries. It's just that when we don't have clear boundaries established, they don't know how far they can go or where it is that they're supposed to stop. And that's the reason why we put up no trespassing signs. That's the reason why we put up fences around our yard. It's not to keep us in, it's to keep other people out. And it says to them, you can go no further. And when we clearly communicate our boundaries, that is exactly what it says to everybody around us. You can go no further. And there's at least 3 areas where you have to have clear boundaries. The first place that we have to have clear boundaries is with students. And part of that is done whenever we set up our classroom structure and our culture. But beyond that, our students need to know that, first of all, we're not available all the time. They don't have the right to just come and grab our time. They need to learn to schedule an appointment with us, or to at least have the courtesy to drop by and say, hey, do you have some time right now, or is another time later? And you have to teach them to do that. The second boundary that has to be set is what is appropriate relationship between student and teacher, and what are appropriate ways of communication. There's too many times where teachers have failed to set boundaries with students, and it has ended up poorly. The second place that you have to set up boundaries is with your colleagues and your administration. They have to know clearly where you're at, and they have to know clearly that you are not available on demand. You can be reached, you can be available, but that takes a process, and you should communicate that with 100% clarity with everyone around you. Let them know how you want to be treated. The third area where you need to have boundaries is you got to have boundaries for yourself. You got to have non-negotiables that you are not willing to cross, that you're not willing to compromise, and you have to set those. And we're going to get to those a little bit later, and so we're just going to go ahead and skip it and go on to the next thing. And so the fourth thing that teachers do, successful teachers, is they don't go at this alone. They understand that teaching is tough, and while we may be the only adult in the classroom, they understand that you really can't accomplish this job if you isolate yourself like an island. If you isolate yourself like an island, you'll very quickly find yourself frustrated. And so what good teachers do is good teachers find themselves a part of a network or a part of a community. It could be that they have a text chat with colleagues. It could be that they have a night out. It could be that they have some other type of networking thing, a lunch crew or something along those lines. But they also join communities. And right now, the hottest thing going is online communities. And I absolutely love them. And that's exactly why we created Teacher Talk, because we wanted a place for teachers to be able to come where they could feel supported, where they could be heard without pretense and without judgment. And most of all, so that nobody would take your tea and go spill it all over campus. And that's a good thing. So if you want to learn more about Teacher Talk, you can go down in the description box. There's all kinds of free resources down there for you. You can grab them, community entrance, all that stuff. Listen, it's all free. It's 100% free, and it's always free. We are here to support you. So go down there and check it out. And the fifth thing that successful teachers do is they take control of their calendar so that school does not take control of them. And I know that that's very difficult, because for 10 months out of the year, school is obviously our priority. And it is cram-packed with all kinds of things that we have to do, things that we want to do, and things that we need to do. But if you don't take control of your calendar will take control of you, because the commitments that you make today, they will ultimately shape the way the future and the rest of the year go for you. And the biggest problem that teachers really have is overcommitment, in particular at the first of the year, because we get in at the first of the year, we're fresh, we feel good, we feel like we can conquer the world. And so, we take on a few extra things that maybe we shouldn't have taken on. And then by about October, we realize that we're in over top of our head. The problem is that we can't back out of it because we've already given our word. And so what happens is we become exhausted, chronic stress sets in, decision fatigue takes over, and before long, we're jaded and cynical and not having a good school year. And so we have to be extraordinarily careful with our calendar. Take control of your calendar. Now, here's a few ways that you can take control of your calendar. It's what I like to call mandatory recess. Number one is 2 times a day, 5 to 7 minutes. Maybe it's mid-morning or mid-afternoon. Clear your calendar, take 5 to 7 minutes and get into the scripture, find some time for prayer. Clear your mind and deep breathing and just reset your day twice a day, 5 to 7 minutes. Everybody has 10 to 14 minutes in the day, in particular if you put it on your calendar. Number 2 is 1 time a week for a 24-hour period. Stop all education-related activities. Do not partake in any kind of grading, any kind of emails, any kind of thoughts about crazy parents or disruptive students. None of that. Let it drop for 24 hours. It's my suggestion from Friday at 6 p.m. to Saturday at 6 p.m. because we're obviously not working on those days. And so it just seems logical to me. Third aspect of mandatory recess is 1 weekend per month where we stop all education-related activities. We are not going to grade. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to plan. We're not going to worry about the future. We're going to take this weekend and we're going to focus on ourselves. We're going to focus on our family. We're going to spend time with people that we love. We're going to spend time doing things that bring us joy and that are fun. It could be that we go hiking. It could be that we go kayaking. It could be that we play a board game. Or for heaven's sakes, maybe we'll go play that crazy axe throwing game, whatever that is. And the fourth aspect of mandatory recess is 1 weekend per quarter, where you and your spouse or your friends or you alone, you get completely away. Get away from the familiar surroundings, go to the beach, go to the woods, go to the mountains, wherever it is that you go, and spend the weekend there and completely unplug and disconnect from all things education related. So earlier, I said that we would talk more about boundaries for yourself. These are some excellent boundaries that you can put on your calendar that will give you control over how you're going to approach the school year. And it doesn't matter what part of the school year you're in. All you got to do right now is pick up your pencil or pen and take your calendar and begin to pencil those things in and write them in and say, on these days, at this time, I'm going to do these things. I want you to know that boundaries are not selfish. Boundaries are protective barriers that will protect you so that you can survive 10 months worth of high demand, high stress, chronic fatigue, decision fatigue, so that you come out and you don't get frustrated and want to quit your job. Because more than anything, we want you to keep teaching. Let us know what you think about this down in the comments. I know that these are unconventional. It's not what everybody else talks about, but it's what we talk about here at Teacher Talk because we want to encourage you. Also, leave us a comment and stay for the next video.